What happens when royalty walks into a morning talk show expecting the red carpet treatment but instead gets the hardest-hitting questions of her life? In just 36 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into the most shocking meltdown morning television has ever witnessed. Good Morning America's studio lights were blazing bright that morning. Michael Strahan sat across from his guest, ready to have what everyone assumed would be a pleasant conversation. But what nobody in that studio could have predicted was that they were about to witness television history. The interview started off smooth enough. Michael leaned forward with his signature warm smile and asked his first question. "So, you've been living a very different life lately. How has that transition been for you?" The response came with an icy edge that immediately shifted the temperature in the room. "Well, Michael, I think the real question is why people are so obsessed with asking me about my transition when they should be celebrating my courage." Michael, ever the professional, nodded thoughtfully. "I think people are genuinely curious. They want to understand your experience." Curious? The word came out sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. Is that what we're calling invasive now? Curious? You could feel the tension starting to build. The crew members glanced at each other nervously. This was not going according to plan. Michael maintained his composure, that easygoing nature that had made him beloved by millions of viewers watching at home. "I don't think wanting to understand someone's journey is invasive," Michael said calmly. "Our viewers care about the people we have on this show." "Your viewers?" she repeated, and there was something mocking in the way she said it. "Your viewers wouldn't know real struggle if it walked up and introduced itself." The studio went silent, dead silent. You could hear the cameras whirring, capturing every second of what was quickly becoming an absolute disaster. Michael's face remained neutral, but you could see something flicker in his eyes. This was his show, his studio. His viewers she was insulting. "I think that's a pretty broad statement," Michael responded, his voice still steady. "A lot of people watching right now face real challenges every single day." She laughed, actually laughed. It wasn't a warm sound. It was the kind of laugh that makes your skin crawl, the kind that says someone thinks they're better than everyone else in the room. "Oh, please, Michael. Do they face the scrutiny I face? Do they have millions of people dissecting their every move? I don't think so." Michael leaned back slightly in his chair. "Actually, many people face incredible scrutiny. Single mothers working 3 jobs, people battling illness, families struggling to keep food on the table. That's different, and you know it," she snapped back. Her whole demeanor had changed now. The mask of polite celebrity had completely fallen away, revealing something much uglier underneath. "Those are normal people problems. What I deal with is on a completely different level. Normal people problems." Those 3 words hung in the air like poison gas. The producers in the control room were frantically talking into their headsets. This was spiraling fast, and nobody knew quite how to stop it without making it worse. Michael's jaw tightened just slightly. "I'm not sure I agree that anyone's struggle should be ranked like that." "Of course you don't agree," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "You sit here in your comfortable chair, asking your comfortable questions, going home to your comfortable life. You have no idea what it's like to be constantly attacked." "I think a lot of people know exactly what that feels like," Michael replied, and there was an edge to his voice now. The patience was wearing thin, and I think most of them handle it with more grace. Her eyes flashed. Dangerously. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Michael said, and now his voice was firm. Not aggressive, but absolutely firm. Grace, humility, perspective, those are things people respect. "How dare you lecture me about grace?" she hissed. "You have no idea what I've been through, the sacrifices I've made." "Then help us understand," Michael offered, extending an olive branch. "That's what we're here for, to listen." But she didn't want an olive branch. She wanted a fight. "Understand? You want to understand? Fine. Let me tell you what you people need to understand. I gave up everything. Everything. And instead of being grateful, instead of recognizing my sacrifice, people like you sit here and question me." "I'm not questioning your sacrifice," Michael said carefully. "I'm asking you to consider that other people make sacrifices too. Every single day. It's not the same thing." Her voice was rising now, getting louder, more shrill. "Stop trying to compare me to regular people. It's insulting. Regular people." There it was again. That same entitled attitude that was becoming more obvious with every word she spoke. Michael glanced briefly at the camera, then back at her. He was done playing nice. "With all due respect, you are a regular person," he said quietly. We all are. Nobody's above anybody else just because of their circumstances. She stood up abruptly. The microphone pack clipped to her waist nearly yanked the cord out of the sound equipment. How dare you? How absolutely dare you speak to me like this? I'm speaking to you like I would speak to anyone, Michael replied, remaining seated, remaining calm. His calmness seemed to make her even more furious, with honesty. Honesty? She was nearly shouting now. You want honesty? Here's some honesty for you. This show is beneath me. You are beneath me. These questions are beneath me. I came here as a favor, and this is how I'm treated? The crew was frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. This was television gold and television nightmare all rolled into one catastrophic moment. Nobody is beneath anybody, Michael said, standing up now to match her. He towered over her, but his voice remained level. And if you think coming on this show was doing us a favor, I think you've misunderstood the situation. Misunderstood? She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. The only thing I've misunderstood is how disrespectful you people would be. Disrespectful, Michael repeated slowly. I've been nothing but professional. I've asked fair questions. You're the one who came in here with an attitude, insulting our viewers, insulting working people, acting like the world owes you something. The world does owe me something. She exploded. After everything I've been through, after everything I've sacrificed, yes, the world owes me respect. Respect is earned, Michael shot back, not demanded. And right now, what you're doing? This isn't earning anyone's respect. Her face went red, absolutely crimson. I don't have to stand here and listen to this. You're right, Michael said. You don't. The words hung there between them. A challenge, an invitation to leave. She stared at him, her chest heaving with anger, clearly expecting him to back down, to apologize, to beg her to stay. But Michael Strahan didn't budge. He just looked at her with those steady eyes, waiting. Fine, she spat. Fine, I'm leaving. The door's right there, Michael said, gesturing calmly toward the exit. But she wasn't done. Oh no, she had to get one more jab in. You know what your problem is, Michael? You're so busy trying to be everyone's friend that you forgot how to treat someone important with the respect they deserve. Michael smiled then. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been handed the perfect closing line. And you're so busy trying to convince everyone you're important that you forgot how to be a decent human being. The gasp from the crew was audible. Nobody could believe he just said that, but he did. He absolutely did. And he didn't look sorry about it either. She grabbed her purse from beside the chair, her hands shaking with rage. You'll regret this. This interview will haunt you. I don't think I will, Michael replied calmly. I sleep pretty well at night. She turned to storm off, but then spun back around one more time. Your ratings will tank without me. Michael actually laughed at that. A genuine, amused laugh. Our ratings were just fine before you got here, and they'll be just fine after you leave. Trust me on that. You're making a huge mistake, she warned, pointing a finger at him. The only mistake I made was not cutting this interview short 10 minutes ago, Michael said. But I was trying to be polite, trying to give you a chance to show people who you really are. Well, mission accomplished. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. She was searching for something cutting to say, some final devastating comeback that would put him in his place. But nothing came, because Michael had taken all the power in the situation and she couldn't stand it. You're a bully, she finally managed to say, and even as the words left her mouth, they sounded weak, desperate. I'm a bully? Michael's eyebrows shot up. You came on here insulting regular people, dismissing their struggles, acting like you're royalty, and I'm the bully? That's rich. This is exactly the kind of treatment I was talking about, she said, trying to play the victim now. This is exactly why people need to understand what I go through. What you go through? Michael's voice rose slightly for the first time. What you go through is being held accountable for your words and actions. That's not persecution. That's called being an adult. She pointed at him again, her finger shaking. You have no right to speak to me this way. I have every right, Michael countered. This is my show, my studio, and here, everybody gets treated the same, with respect when they give it, and with honesty when they need to hear it. You needed to hear it. I came here in good faith, she protested weakly. No, you didn't, Michael said, shaking his head. You came here expecting to be worshipped, expecting softball questions and endless praise. And when you didn't get that, when you got treated like every other guest, you couldn't handle it. The truth of his words must have stung because her face twisted into something ugly. I don't need this. I don't need you. I don't need any of this. Then why are you still standing here? Michael asked simply. That did it. That was the final straw. She let out a sound of pure frustration and turned on her heel. Her expensive shoes clicked loudly against the studio floor as she marched toward the exit. But even then, even in her dramatic exit, she couldn't help herself. She had to turn around one more time. This will come back to haunt you, she called. Out. You just made an enemy. Michael looked at her with something almost like pity. I think you make enemies all by yourself. You don't need any help from me. She opened her mouth one more time, but a producer finally stepped in, gently guiding her toward the door. Let's go, the producer said quietly. It's time to go. And just like that, she was being escorted out. The crew watched in stunned silence as she disappeared through the studio doors. You could hear her voice echoing down the hallway, still complaining, still protesting, still playing the victim. Michael stood there for a moment, just breathing. The adrenaline was clearly pumping through his veins, but he kept his composure. He turned to face the camera, and his expression softened. Well, he said to the viewers at home, that was unexpected. The crew burst into applause. Actual applause. They had just witnessed their host stand up to someone who thought she was untouchable, and they loved every second of it. Michael held up a hand to quiet them down. Let's take a quick break, he said to the camera, but you could see the hint of a smile playing at his lips. When we come back, we'll have something a little more positive to talk about. As the camera cut away, the studio erupted in chatter. Everyone was talking at once, replaying what just happened, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Michael's co-hosts rushed over to him. That was incredible. One of them said, eyes wide, I can't believe she actually said those things. I can, Michael replied, loosening his tie slightly. Some people show you exactly who they are when they don't get their way. The senior producer approached, looking stressed but also impressed. That's going to be everywhere within the hour. I know, Michael said, and he didn't sound worried. He sounded relieved. But I wasn't going to sit there and let her insult our viewers. Not happening. You handled it perfectly. Another crew member chimed in. Seriously, that was textbook how to deal with a difficult guest. Michael shrugged. I just treated her like I'd treat anyone else. That's the problem right there. She expected special treatment and couldn't handle being challenged. From somewhere in the building, you could still hear her voice, raised in anger, arguing with someone. The crew exchanged glances, and several people tried to suppress smiles. This was a story they would be telling for years. Did she really say regular people problems? Someone asked in disbelief. She really did, Michael confirmed, shaking his head. Said it more than once, too. That's going to be the soundbite heard around the world, the producer muttered. Michael grabbed a bottle of water and took a long drink. You know what? Good. Let people hear it. Let them hear exactly how she thinks about them. No editing, no spin, just the truth. His co-host put a hand on his shoulder. You okay? I'm fine, Michael said, and he meant it. Actually, I'm better than fine. That needed to happen. She needed to be called out, and somebody had to do it. Well, you certainly did it, the producer said with a slight laugh. The phones are already ringing off the hook. People supporting it or people angry? Michael asked. Almost entirely supportive, the producer reported, looking at her tablet. People are saying it's about time someone stood up to her. Michael nodded slowly. Good, because I meant every word I said. Nobody is above anybody else. I don't care what their title is or what family they married into. We're all just people, and we all deserve to be treated with basic respect. She clearly didn't get that memo, someone muttered, and several crew members laughed. The stage manager called out that they had 2 minutes until they were back on air. Michael took a deep breath and straightened his jacket. The smile returned to his face, but there was something different about it now, something stronger, more confident. All right, he said to everyone. Let's get back to doing what we do best, good television. As the crew scrambled back to their positions, Michael returned to his seat. The other co-hosts joined him, and you could see the energy in the studio had completely changed. What had started as a regular morning show had turned into something nobody would forget. 30 seconds, the stage manager announced. Michael looked directly into the camera, even though they weren't live yet. He was ready, more than ready, because at the end of the day, he had done nothing wrong. He had asked fair questions, stood up for his viewers, and refused to let someone treat people like they were beneath her. 10 seconds. The lights brightened, the music queued up, and Michael Strahan, professional that he was, slipped right back into host mode like nothing had happened. Because that's what you do when you're a true professional. You don't let the difficult moments break you. You face them head on, you stand your ground, and then you move forward. And we're back, he said smoothly as the camera went live. Now, before that unexpected interruption, we were talking about some exciting things coming up this weekend. His co-host jumped in seamlessly, and the show continued. But everyone watching knew they had just witnessed something special, something real. In an age where everything feels scripted and fake, they had seen a genuine moment of someone standing up for what was right. The conversation had started with what seemed like simple questions. How has life changed? What has the transition been like? Basic interview questions that any guest should be able to handle with grace and humility. But instead of answering honestly, instead of connecting with the viewers, she had come in with an attitude of superiority. Every question Michael asked was met with defensiveness. Every attempt to understand her perspective was thrown back in his face with contempt. And when he dared to suggest that other people face struggles too, that everyone deserves respect, she had completely lost it. The regular people comment would go down in history as one of the most tone-deaf things ever said on live television. In one moment, she had revealed exactly how she viewed the world. There were important people, and then there was everyone else, and she had made it crystal clear which category she thought she belonged in. But Michael hadn't let her get away with it. He could have laughed it off, changed the subject, moved on to safer topics. That's what most hosts would have done. Keep the guest happy, avoid confrontation, maintain the fake friendly atmosphere. But not Michael. He pushed back. He challenged her. He made her face the reality of what she was saying. And when she tried to turn it around on him, when she tried to make herself the victim, he didn't fall for it. He called it out for exactly what it was, a deflection, an attempt to avoid accountability. Someone who had been given every advantage in life, trying to claim she had it harder than everyone else. The entitled attitude had been there from the start, but it really showed itself when she didn't get the interview she wanted. She expected praise. She expected agreement. She expected Michael to nod along with everything she said and treat her like royalty. When he didn't, when he dared to have his own perspective, she couldn't handle it. That's when the insults started flying, calling the show beneath her, calling Michael beneath her, saying she was doing them a favor by being there. Each comment revealed more of her true character, peeling back the carefully crafted public image to show what was really underneath. And through it all, Michael remained calm. He didn't yell. He didn't insult her back. He simply stated facts. He stood up for his viewers. He defended the concept that all people have value, regardless of their circumstances. That respect goes both ways. That being famous or wealthy or connected doesn't make you better than anyone else. The moment when he told her that respect is earned, not demanded, was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because that's the truth she needed to hear. That's the truth a lot of people in her position need to hear. The world doesn't owe you anything just because of who you are or what you've done. You earn people's respect through your actions, through your character, through how you treat others. And she failed that test spectacularly. Every word out of her mouth made it worse. Every attempt to assert her importance just proved how little she understood about real importance. Real importance isn't about titles or fame or wealth. It's about character. It's about integrity. It's about treating people with dignity and kindness, regardless of who they are. When she finally stormed off the set, she thought she was making some grand statement. She thought she was showing them who was boss, proving that she didn't need them. But all she really proved was that she couldn't handle being treated like everyone else. She couldn't handle someone refusing to bow down to her. She couldn't handle the truth. The repeated attempts to have the last word, turning back around again and again to throw out more threats and accusations, just made her look more desperate, more out of control. Meanwhile, Michael stood there, steady as a rock, refusing to be intimidated or manipulated. His line about her making enemies all by herself was cutting, because it was true. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was who she was, revealed for everyone to see. The mask slipped, and there was no putting it back on. As she was escorted out, still complaining, still protesting, the contrast between her and Michael couldn't have been more stark. He had maintained his professionalism throughout. Yes, he had called her out, but he had done so without losing his temper or stooping to her level. He had simply refused to let her disrespect people who deserve better. That's what made the whole thing so powerful. It wasn't just a celebrity meltdown, it was a moment of accountability. Someone finally saying what needed to be said, what so many people had been thinking but were afraid to voice. That being famous doesn't make you special, that everyone deserves respect. That talking down to regular people and their struggles is not okay. The studio's reaction said it all. The applause from the crew wasn't just because it was dramatic television. It was because they were proud of their host for standing up for them, for the viewers, for everyone who works hard and faces challenges and deserves to be treated with dignity. When Michael told the camera they would have something more positive to talk about after the break, you could hear the relief in his voice. Not because he regretted what happened, but because he was ready to move on from the negativity she had brought into the studio, ready to get back to what the show was supposed to be about. The way his colleagues rallied around him afterward showed the kind of respect he had earned. Real respect, the kind that comes from being a good person who stands up for what's right. They weren't supporting him because he was their boss or because they had to. They supported him because he had done the right thing in a difficult situation. The immediate public response proved that the viewers felt the same way. They weren't angry at Michael for the confrontation. They were grateful. Grateful that someone finally refused to play along with the act. Grateful that someone valued regular people enough to defend them. Grateful for a moment of authenticity in a world that often feels fake. This wasn't about destroying someone or tearing them down. It was about truth, about reality, about refusing to let someone spread a message that some people matter more than others. Michael had given her every opportunity to course correct, to show some humility, to recognize her privilege and good fortune. She chose not to take those opportunities. Instead, she doubled down. She got angrier. She got more insulting. She revealed more of her true character with every word. And Michael simply held up a mirror and made her look at what she was showing the world. That takes courage. It's easy to go along to get along. It's easy to let things slide, to avoid confrontation, to prioritize smooth sailing over standing up for what's right. Michael could have done that, but he didn't. Because some things are more important than a comfortable interview. The people watching at home, the regular people she had dismissed, they saw someone stand up for them. They saw someone refuse to let their struggles be minimized or dismissed. They saw someone say that every person has value, every struggle matters, every life has dignity. That's the message that resonated. Not the drama, not the spectacle, but the fundamental principle underneath it all, that we're all human beings deserving of respect and consideration, that nobody gets to look down on anyone else. That character matters more than status. When Michael returned to hosting after the break, that seamless transition back to professionalism showed who he really was. He didn't gloat. He didn't spend the rest of the show talking about what happened. He did his job. He moved forward, because that's what professionals do. But nobody who watched would forget what they saw. They wouldn't forget her words about regular people and their problems. They wouldn't forget her entitled attitude and dismissive behavior. And they wouldn't forget Michael standing firm, speaking truth, and refusing to back down. In 36 seconds, with one comment about regular people, she had destroyed whatever goodwill she might have had. And in the minutes that followed, she had confirmed everything people suspected about her true character. No amount of backtracking or explanations would erase what happened at that studio. Michael had given her enough rope, and she had hung herself with it. Not through any trick or trap, but simply by being herself when she thought she could get away with it. By showing what she really thought about people who weren't in her circle. By revealing the entitlement and arrogance that had been there all along. The beauty of it was that he didn't have to make her look bad. She did that all on her own. All he did was refuse to pretend it wasn't happening, refuse to laugh it off or excuse it, refuse to let it pass without comment. And that refusal, that simple act of standing up, made all the difference. This was the moment people would remember. Not her carefully crafted public appearances or her scripted interviews. This, the real her, when things didn't go her way. The mask off, the truth revealed, the character exposed. And standing opposite her, a host who refused to be pushed around, refused to compromise his values, and refused to let someone treat people like they didn't matter. It was television history. Not because it was planned or scripted, but because it was real, raw, honest. A genuine moment of confrontation between two very different people with very different values. And when it was over, there was no question about who had come out looking better. Michael Strahan had stood his ground. He had defended his viewers. He had refused to let anyone, no matter how famous or connected, spread a message of superiority and entitlement on his show. And in doing so, he had reminded everyone watching why he was so beloved, why people trusted him, why he had earned his position. While she would be remembered for her meltdown, her insults, her inability to handle basic questions with grace, he would be remembered for his integrity, for his strength, for his unwillingness to compromise on basic human decency. That's the legacy each of them created in those intense minutes on live television. The story would be told and retold countless times. The clips would be shared everywhere. The quotes would become infamous. But underneath all the drama and spectacle was a simple truth. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And when someone stands up for what's right, support them. That morning in the studio, both things happened. She showed everyone who she really was, and Michael stood up for what was right. The rest, as they say, is history.